All right, so first of all, thank you to those who have subscribed, who've watched the videos. Hopefully you were encouraged by what you've seen and empowered to know how to do some stuff that you didn't know how using FreeShow. My name is Gary, and I am here to help you take the complex things and make them simple. My goal with this channel is to equip you to have understanding of things that you may not know about, to help you become a better media volunteer with your ministry, but also just to help you understand things that you're curious about. And so I'm sure we're going to get a mix of that on our channel, on this channel, and I'm curious to hear more feedback from you guys and see the comments. I check them to make sure I keep up with what the needs are. But at heart, I'm a trainer and a consultant. And so I'm always going to be looking to solve problems. And so I have to do my best not to get too involved in the comments. But at the same time, whenever I see a problem, I think it needs to be solved. And so we got a request or a question from one of our people in the community to ask about how to sync up their pastor's notes with their computer for service, and the pastor being at home, them being at home, two separate computers. How do you do that? Well, I had no clue. So I'm going to give a big shout out to the FreeShow team, the development team. I don't work with FreeShow. I don't work for FreeShow. It's, from what I understand, a group of volunteers that are working together to create a responsive product that is free for those to use, and it has allowed it to be a global product that is really helpful for many communities, many nations, to use this program and have access to a quality presentation software that doesn't cost them anything. So big shout out to them. They've been answering some of my questions on a Reddit feed. So we're going to go through that today, and hopefully we can make some sense of how to share seamlessly and wirelessly one person's notes and or back up their shows that they've created to another computer so that it can be shown live in a service. All right, so let's get into this. All right. So first off, there's an option in FreeShow in the settings that's called Cloud. All right, this is the initial way that FreeShow introduces for you to sync up between multiple computers. All right, so the way this works is you would go in and you would end up turning on automatic sync on start and close, or start up and close. But to do that, you've got to set up this API service. It'll create a media path, and I've got mine blurred out or just crossed out a little bit so you can't see the whole number. And then it'll set a main folder for you to mainly connect to your Google Drive and all this kind of stuff. All right. Now, to get there, it's a bit of a doozy. Okay, so let's look at what it takes to get there. All right, I'm going to first, let me share with you the comment that I got on Reddit so you can kind of keep up with where I'm coming from. All right, so here's what we got. I asked him about how to sync up files to allow my pastor to create slides and share them with me seamlessly for Sunday. All right, is Drive the best way? And basically what they said was, let's see here. If I click to see the full discussion, they said you would just install FreeShow on the pastor's computer and do the steps you already did on your computer to this computer, or to his computer, so it syncs FreeShow to the same Google Drive folder that your computer uses. Alternatively, you can use, well, let me pause there. So big shout out to CloudSad3555. All right. Basically what he's saying is the process that's outlined in FreeShow, okay? The process that's outlined there is here. It actually has this cloud setting option. You would set this up and do it, and then you do the exact same thing on someone else's computer, okay? Now, in doing so, this involves a Google account, so you would have to log into a Google account and all this kind of stuff real time. So, you know, make sure it's people you trust, make sure it's an account that probably doesn't have anything else in it. You can just create a new Google account, new Gmail account, and just sync up to that account. And it basically is your FreeShow sync up account because you're going to have to go into that account and access it, obviously. So both the media team member and the leader or the pastor would need to have access to that account. All right. So I've done those steps, and those steps are outlined quite well. If we go to, let's see, let me see if I can get to the internet real quick. Hold on just a sec. If we go to Google Let's see. I'm gonna go to FreeShow. All right. So if we go to resources in FreeShow, let's see here. Now let's go to Docs. Go to Docs and you type in cloud. You're going to get this drive option. All right, so Cloud Sync with Google Drive, they literally walk you through step by step. So if you're interested in doing this process, I would encourage you to go through this process step by step, the one on the right there. And what it allows you to do, and I'll just make it big screen here for you. They literally walk you through getting started with this process to say, okay, first you need to create your own Google Developer project. What I did was you can create just a generic Google account first and then sign into Google Developer Console, all right? Even if you're not a developer, and you walk through each of these steps, and they got links here that take you to the right page and all that kind of stuff. And so I literally just walked myself through that. It shows a lot. I'm gonna say it shows a lot of personal information, but for the sake of me not understanding exactly how it works, I'm not going to share my screen or my recordings of what I did. But they do have a very clear step-by-step guide because this was new to me and I was able to do it without a problem. All right. And so once you do that, you will go through and have you create a key and all this stuff. You grant access. You literally walk through step by step, whatever's on this particular page. All right. And basically, once you're done with that, you'll end up with a cloud page on your settings that you always had. And it'll have some numbers in your media path, and it'll have some big old key or folder link, I guess you can call it, in here on the set main folder manually option. All right. And you can always just click sync and it'll automatically sync up to that Google Drive path folder you made in this developer API thing that I know nothing about. So big shout out, like I said, to the FreeShow team. They're the developers. They know what they're talking about, and they designed this, and it works the way they designed it to. Now, going back to his response, though, he says, hey, you know what? Alternatively, you can install FreeShow. Let me share my screen with you. He says, alternatively, you can share, you can install FreeShow, I'm sorry, and Google Drive for desktop on both machines. You can point the show and configure files to a folder in the drive created by Google Drive for desktop. It says default is G. And then be sure to sign in to the same Google account. All right. And I say, interesting, thank you. So does it automatically sync upon opening with the first option that you mentioned? So up here, when we talk about the Google API deal, it does sync because it says automatic sync on startup. Let me show you my page here. It says automatic sync on startup and close. So it does sync up as soon as you open it up, and it syncs up as soon as you close it. And you'll see that menu option show up that says, hey, we're syncing up. All right. And so here's an idea of what that looks like. When I click sync now, for example, oh, this is not my real page, but when you click sync now, a little window pops up because this is a picture. So I had to edit that picture. Right. And so that's one thing. If you wanted to go the other route without the API, you wouldn't be able to use this page. You would just be using the Google desktop app, and you can sync up the Google Drive desktop app. You can do it that way. All right. And then he went on in his response and he said, hey, if using the Google Drive API set up in FreeShow, it should be seamless. When FreeShow saves, it should trigger a sync to Google Drive through the API. If you choose to go through the Google Drive for desktop, you get a bit more control and conflict messages. All right, the Google Drive for desktop app tells you what files are syncing, if there are errors, and can pause syncing. Its big downside is that you have to use the same Google account when signing into the app. It is a separate app, download/install, and it must be running to work. Google Drive for desktop only works for one user per login. So if the pastor already uses Google Drive for desktop, you will have to find another solution like Microsoft OneDrive. The upside is you don't have to generate an API key or create a developer account, etc. All right. Using the FreeShow solution, which requires an API key simplifies all of this, but can seem intimidating. And I think this is where a lot of new users, beginners are going to fall into, is that it's going to look intimidating. And I can tell you as a new user, I'm very familiar with FreeShow. Even though I'm a new user, I've been using it and playing with it and studying it and practicing with it for some time. I am a very I'm a complete novice when it comes to API and developer backends and all that kind of stuff. All right. And so alternatives, he says, to creating a FreeShow are still PowerPoint or Keynote and exporting as images. You can use Google Slides, right? And then he says, but there's not a good way to exporting all slides as images. FreeShow does import PowerPoint and Keynote files. I've tried that, but the one thing that you got to make sure is that you do the export as images. So you create your slides on Keynote, you create your slides on PowerPoint, and then you export that presentation and make it images. Make it not be a PowerPoint file. And if you do it as images, it will be a replica of what you want for your slides. Now, the downside of doing it as images is if you try to make transitions and fancy slide ins and move ins with all your text individually, that's going to be a challenge. So it's going to be a give and take. Personally, I would just recommend not doing that, but that's just me. Keeping your slides simple where there's the image and the text there and as little text as possible is probably best. But exporting it out as an image is going to be the best way to go when you're doing from PowerPoint Keynote. It's just hard to do it from Google Slides, all right? He says you can try that, but you need to make sure your machine has the same fonts as the machine used. So if you try to do import that is a PowerPoint file, it's got to make sure the fonts are all the same from the machine that you use to create the presentations, or the presentations have embedded fonts, all right? So you got to make sure that that's the case if you're going to try to get the files from PowerPoint or Keynote as a PowerPoint or Keynote file. But my recommendation would be to get those files and use them as images. So export your PowerPoint, export your Keynote, advise your pastor, export your Keynote or your PowerPoint as just images and just email it to us as a media team. And then we can have that up and ready in no time. It literally is no time that it takes to get those files ready to go as a show in FreeShow. However, if you and your pastor both insist that, hey, the best way is for them to have that autonomy to make the show whenever they want to in FreeShow and type it out and put the images in, all that kind of stuff in FreeShow, which is great, then I would recommend doing the API key option, the API service, whatever option is this built in with the cloud, because it does make it more seamless for you guys in the long run. It's a little bit more work up front, but it does make it seamless for you in the long run, to where once they make those changes, and then that might be on a Tuesday, they make those changes in their FreeShow version, and it'll automatically sync up when they close it. When you open up that same one on Saturday or Sunday, it'll automatically sync up and it'll be the same show. It'll be the same FreeShow account, so you don't have to worry about that kind of process interfering with consistency. All right. So this is a long video, forgive me, but this video, I wanted to make sure to give shout out to the folks from FreeShow, the developer team. They are responsive, unbelievable. So if you want to check them out, go to Reddit and go to the FreeShow app feed or stream or whatever that is, and you can get some more feedback from them directly. I'm more of a trainer slash simple solutionist. So I like to understand things. I like to break down things and understand them in a way that makes sense. But what I will say is that once you do go with the option you want, just practice with it, because it will pay off in the long run. It will make sense for you. And then if you say, you know what, I need to do the API thing, and if you're intimidated by that, it may be worth it once you try them just exporting files as images and it's not working out well for them and you to sync up, then I would just do the API option on FreeShow with the cloud. Identical folders that you set up. So you do the exact same thing in two different computers, your pastor's computer, your computer, and it'll work just fine for that type of setup. All right. Hope that helps. And I look forward to catching up with you guys next time.